Okay, so what I'm going to do is, and by the way, I have to say, I have updated this up since Adam invited me 2 years ago, Providence, Rhode Island, so it really is 2018. Got it. What? Right. So, no offense to Einstein, but I want to talk a lot about data, information, and how it leads to knowledge. So, not to say that there's no lack of imagination in there, right? But I'm not going to tell imagination so much as I am on how we use all this data. And I think one of the things we can appreciate from the Undersecretary's talk is, right, how much data is out there. There's a lot, right? In fact, I don't know about you guys, but tonight, if I can stay awake, I would like to look at some of these portals that the Philippine government has, particularly around geospatial stuff. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But there is a lot of data out there. And my time in the humanitarian world actually goes back to the Bosnian wars. Probably many of you weren't born then, perhaps, but when I was a medical relief worker, and back in those days, we really didn't have great data at all. So it's really been a very short period of time, and which is probably escalated with the digital age, right? How much data we get in crises, you know, even conflict settings. I've spent a lot, maybe more of my time in conflict settings, Kosovo, the Palestinian territories, and other places like that, and refugee camps and so on. So probably natural disasters we get quite a bit more data. But nonetheless, we do get a lot of data, and particularly now with the information technology. All right, does anybody want to turn to this slide? Am I allowed to call on people here? Is that hopefully it's a thing to do? I don't want to. Anyone want to interpret that in one sentence? Humanitarian aid, which is money, on the x-axis, scrutiny on the y-axis, scrutinized by the people, the world, the people you're serving, donors, governments. Okay. Well, it basically says there's a positive relationship there, right? So as scrutiny goes up, aid goes up, it tells us that we're supposed to be accountable, right? It's accountability. So I will say, I still believe in the fact that good science, good evidence-based, really is where we should always be focused. Because we're held accountable at the end of the day to the people we serve. So this is why I think both quantitative and qualitative data and the analysis of it, okay, is really important. If you were all donors, I'll turn you on all the donors right now, and you were looking at this slide, I'm bringing this slide to you, and I am an NGO working in food, okay? This happens to be after pretty severe drought, famine, in Ethiopia, during this century. Under 5 mortality rate, crude mortality rate, and of course the baseline, right, where things are good. Okay, so I'm going to come to you and say, look, I implemented my food program right here, okay? And I'm coming to you here with this slide and saying, I deserve more money, right? Because it looks good, doesn't it? Would you give me more money? It's a trick question. Anybody not give me more money? You all give me money. I love you people. Okay. Okay, I can make that argument. What I don't know is, right, the entire population. So this is where the science of public health, and I'm going to talk a lot about epidemiology, because that's my background, and how it's useful for looking at population data. What if everybody died in this time frame? But I held those numbers for you. Or maybe everybody left, and the death rate actually went down. Less people dying because there's less people, right? So these are the things you're going to want to know about data, right? This is quantitative data right here. The qualitative question that you're going to want to ask is this really true? And why is this happening? If it's happening at all, right? You're going to want to know the context. that's why I want to set the stage a little bit for our afternoon. It's going to be a little bit scientific, so hopefully you will stay awake. If I can stay awake, hopefully you will stay awake. So let's talk about all the data stream that is out there. The Undersecretary already talked about how much, and I think probably my colleague, Dr. Valentino, this morning, he is my colleague, talked a little bit about probably all the data that is out there in terms of rapid assessments, and being able to do vulnerability analysis and things like that. So there's a lot of this information that's typically quantitative, some of it's qualitative, right? From all kinds of sectors, water, sanitation, right? Food, nutrition, shelter, all that. It comes as a result of a crisis, right? I'm going to focus a little bit on some other data streams here. Surveillance data, which is often quantitative. Surveys and how to do surveys. Okay, so that's what we'll focus on a little bit. Bring the science to people who need to know. Okay. Okay, so this is a quick schematic, essentially, of the type of data we have. And I think the Undersecretary also talked a lot about this data that's already available to us. So most likely, you obviously have a lot of hazard data available to you. By the way, I'm not nervous about being there, even if I heard all those hazards. Okay. It was just quite something. I knew that the Philippines was a disaster country, but I'm also glad this is the 5th most peaceful city in the country. Is that correct? I saw that on a bunch of mayor proclaiming that on every other telephone pole. It's kind of nice. Made me feel a little more secure. Anyway, so all this data is here, right? Probably already. You have a lot of kind of demographic data, variable quality, it's available to you, right? And then you have an emergency happens, and then you have sort of what happens after that. All this initial assessment stuff. Then the Undersecretary sort of said, we need to know hospitals are up and running, roads are functioning, so on. So that's all of that kind of data. And then as we go on, we get into this a little bit more cheap. Is the response really working? Can we really study it? We have to know population data to do that. And we have to know some other metrics, like mortality, right? To know if that's happening. And we might get into kind of do deeper dives into things like food, nutrition, right? Are we seeing malnutrition? Is it not getting food delivered to the place? Are we seeing diarrhea? Is it not have enough nutrients to persons, and so on? Enough water? I'm so sorry, guys. I know everybody sat next to me on the plane, probably was very nervous too. Can't let that bother me. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit too on a global level. I know you've focused a lot on the Philippines, regionally and locally. I'm going to talk a little bit more globally what happens. So, since the 1990s, there's been what's called the Interagency Standing Committee. There are a lot of IASCs in the UN. But there's one particularly around humanitarian work. It didn't really start doing anything until around 2005. This is when the cluster system came into play. Are you all familiar with that? Can I use that term? The cluster system? Okay. So, these were all initially based on some consensus indicators. Again, we're talking quantitative here. They were typically community level assessments, right? OCHA, whoops. Maybe going through this a lot, I haven't been. OCHA is the major UN operational agency, right, that manages the data, at least manages the flow of data, and provides it, sort of across the entire cluster system. Sorry, guys. Around 2010, everything changed. That was only 8 years ago. And what happened in 2010? We had probably one of the most devastating natural events, right, of our lifetimes. Devastation. Why was it so devastating? Well, fairly poor infrastructure, footprints, very urban, not great governance at the time for response, poorly mapped city, we'll talk about that tomorrow, and high poverty, poor health indicators, sort of all of that. If I won't blame God for this one, but if some higher power decided to have an earthquake, the worst place in the world, earthquakes would have to be really worse for a lot of reasons. What happened? Well, and I think the Undersecretary referred to this too, this was really the rise of crowdsourced information. This is when information started coming to responders. Rather than going out to get it, right? We now had, new information communication technologies that just flooded the international community, the international response with information. This is the UCD platform. Has anyone ever heard of UCD? Probably many of you have. It's an open source, started in 2008 during the Canadian elections. But essentially what it does is it invites, right, crowdsource, all of you as citizen journalists, right, to comment. This happens to be, sorry, this is in French, but you can see that it starts categorizing, what everybody needed, right? It texted in with short code, and this went onto a platform, and then it sort of went to everybody, the international responders, to basically say, how are we going to respond to this? Okay? So again, there's sort of an accountability there. So this was a milestone. This was a lot of data that came flying at the international community, mainly because of that information and communication technology volunteers who stepped into the humanitarian space and basically said, look, we have this technology, we need to use it. Sorry. This led the IASC to say, you know what, we need to have common operational data sets. And just like we described portals in the last talk, these are sort of portals in a sense. These are data sharing arrangements that come across the cluster system, okay, in a crisis, right? And now, the UN can share information with each other, believe it or not. They couldn't do that today, right? Different formats, right? Different P codes, all those kinds of things. They decided to standardize them. Brilliant. Is that helpful? And then after that, they came out with sort of an info toolkit product for the international community to come into place, right? To be able to share data with national governments, local governments, and responders. So, what are some important things about here? Well, we need to have data that is population data, disaggregable by age, by sex, right? That's helpful. We need to know who's doing what where. We always need to know that, right? In a crisis. All of this is sort of rapid information. We should be able to link it together. And then we should be able to trend data afterwards as well. And we'll talk about surveillance as a mechanism to do that later in this talk. It's not quite as malleable for conflict as you can imagine. So this works really, really well in natural disasters, and they're going to focus a lot of the students on that. Now, one of the things I'd like to add to what the Undersecretary said is you're starting to understand, I think, we need to step a little bit outside of public health, right? And understand other disciplines as well. I didn't do very academic bio. I'm actually doing a master's in GIS myself in my spare time at my ripe old age. I'm in classes with people who are far better with computer technology than me. But what I kind of appreciate is how people in earth sciences think. They don't always think about populations. And so I can sort of offer that to my classmates. But I learned a lot from them about how they think about mapping, modeling, right? Landslides, floods, just as the Undersecretary is describing the portals in place happen. So that's really valuable information. We can bring some of that public health data to them, and that's what I want to do a little bit today, this afternoon. All right. By the way, just as an aside, I love the question about how do we get people more into the sciences. In the U.S., the problem is actually getting our politicians to listen to science. That's our problem. We usually have enough people going into the science for a thing. It's just being the politicians didn't even appreciate it right at the moment. So if you have an answer to that, I'd love to hear that. That's what we're looking. All right. Here's a great portal, by the way. For those of you who are interested in looking at population data in humanitarian crisis, this is really a new initiative that started in the last couple of years, the Humanitarian Data Exchange. Here's the website. A lot of this geocoded data, near and dear to all of our hearts now, I think, because we just had a talk and we'll talk about it tomorrow. Geography really is a variable, important variable. Trying to explore that a little bit. A lot of these data sets are provided by non-governmental organizations they're working in all kinds of crises. And I think what you'll appreciate is when you look, it's not just natural disasters, it's conflict as well. So you'll see a lot of stuff in Syria, a lot of stuff in South Sudan, and so on. Right. And again, I think you start to see a little bit of other disciplines involved here, right? This is why I did it. Sorry. Very briefly, because I think you guys have talked about this quite a bit already, is these rapid assessment things. This happens to be what the international community uses a lot for data gathering. We talked about these common operational data sets. I don't want to belabor it, it's a horrible slide. But then let me just highlight a couple things here. One is that a lot of data in the beginning part of the crisis, right, is stuff that you are collecting on the fly, right, and it's based on a lot of stuff that has been collected in the past. And then as crisis evolves, you get down to the community level assessments. That's kind of the important thing here. And that could be a combination of both quantitative and qualitative. And I'll just leave it at that. We'll talk more in detail. But this is just what I just kind of said. And again, when we talk about qualitative data, we'll emphasize this. That said, if there's anything we can emphasize this afternoon between my talk and the secretary, is that there's a lot of secondary data out there to be understood. You just know where to get it. And it's available for analysis. And then the big hurdle is how to analyze it. Right? You always get it, but to analyze it is something different. And that's why the science professor works in that question. We need to get more people to science. Sure. So this multi-assessment scheme has certain thematic areas, and again, I will leave this for you guys to look at. I won't go into detail on all these, but it covers most of it. So a lot of these common operational data sets have this. And this is an outdated slide, but you can see there, he just showed you a lot of the portals available to you, mostly in earth sciences, right? But there's a lot of other stuff too. We're talking about population data. So, for instance, demographic and health surveys, I'm not sure if you're familiar with those. Those get done every 5 to 10 years. They're funded by USAID, that was referred by USAID. The multi-integrated cluster survey, which is WHO funded. A lot of World Bank data out there. I think you heard from somebody from World Bank, right? So there's definitely those as well. The United Nations has a lot of global data sets as well. Geospatial data we'll talk a lot more about tomorrow. MDAT is sort of interesting. MDAT is the Emergency Department Headquarters. Emergency Disaster Data Set. It sits at the Center for Research in Epidemiology and Disasters in Brussels. This data set actually goes back to the 1970s. It records every disaster in which there are like 10 or more people, 10 or more people killed and 100 more affected. So it's helpful. But the point is there's just a lot of data out there already. All right. Data streams in disasters, right? Again, very common in natural disasters, a little less so in conflict, but every country has some kind of health information system. Now, how good it is and how well it stands up to crisis is another issue. But we'll talk about that. Like Adam, work in an emergency department. And if certain things come into my emergency department, I'm actually required to report them to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Public Health. Boston's actually a fairly safe city, but occasionally we get somebody got a wielded a gun and shot somebody else, and so that becomes a memory start, and I actually have to report that to them. And that's sort of what surveillance is. It's a list of things that countries have that they want to track and follow. All right. So what is surveillance? Well, it's a network of information the countries have. And the idea is to detect things. Now, often this is mostly for things like injury and infectious diseases, right? Good surveillance systems that work that way. Now, there needs regular analysis, so that's what I want to focus on a little bit, this quantitative analysis. And it should generate a response if it crosses some threshold, right? Usually, X number of cases in a certain area, right, should generate a response. And then it monitors it. And then the point is that it's supposed to be ongoing, so prospective, iterative, over time. Now, it doesn't capture everything. So surveillance data is not representative. We'll talk a little bit later about how to do representative sampling. Surveillance data doesn't do that, but it does follow trends. Probably underreports, right? Can't capture everything, but it is really useful. And so I throw that to you as a source of analysis. Okay. So when we talk in epidemiology about incidence and prevalence of disease, these are incidents, new cases that come up in a period of time. Or prevalence is the number of disease states in this data. 30% of you have hypertension, and that's not the case. That would be prevalence, right, in this population. So it won't capture all of that, right? And it won't explain the root causes for that. What does do that? What kind of data? Back a little bit. Explanations of things. It's usually qualitative information. Yeah, getting on the ground, getting the context. It doesn't explain why things improve. Kind of like that slide I showed you of the drought, right? But here's what it does kind of look at. So our rates changing, whether we're talking about crude mortality, how well the health system is functioning, we're seeing more injury, things like that. And it's interesting, I looked at a surveillance system once in a protracted refugee camp, right? People were dying of communicable disease anymore because they had a decent health system. This was in copy. But what they were seeing were deaths of little kids being hit by four-wheel drive vehicles running around a huge camp with tens of thousands of people. It depends on what's happening at the time. You know? It's an acute situation, maybe, looking at how much liters per person per day people are getting and so on. All right. This is because they're in the emergency response. It's meant to support a health information system. And it's meant to be stronger as time goes on. In other words, to really create a robust health information system within the country. I'm going to leave that one go. This was we set up a surveillance system after Hurricane Katrina in the southern U.S. on the coast in 2005. What kind of things we were tracking? Well, we knew the population had, a lot of chronic disease. The hurricane hit about a week before this data started, right? All these people were in shelters, right? And what do you notice? Okay, so this is asthma, diabetes, hypertension, right? So it took about a week to a week and a half for acute incidence of these things to go down. Why do you think this was high the first week or so after the flood hurricane? Well, the trauma being displaced, that's true, but the displacement was actually being disconnected from their doctors, their health system. So they probably didn't have their medications, okay? Right? So these kind of things you can ask about a surveillance system. This is also sort of interesting. These were existing psychiatric disorders. These were sort of new psychiatric conditions. Now, we kind of are not too surprised that this was sort of high in the first week or so, right? There's acute trauma. But then we see this very funny big blip here, right? These are all the shelters in Louisiana. So we kind of go back and say, what happened, right? And surveillance data sort of makes you do that. What just so happened I don't expect you guys to know this. I expect my students in the school public health to know this stuff. But anyway, we had another hurricane, Hurricane Rita, in almost the exact same location. Guess what happened? People who were displaced after Hurricane Katrina got redisplaced again. So nothing like another hurricane, right, to make people feel very insecure. So this is a refugee camp in Tanzania, actually. And the only reason I show this is because this is kind of typical outpatient department, right, where people get care. This is noon. It's 7 a.m. The line goes all the way down the road. Now, this is basic surveillance. This was like, I love this picture because it was like wallpaper. They were recording every day, every month, surveillance. Under 5, greater than 5, right? Malaria, diarrhea, tuberculosis. This is kind of a beautiful thing. This is before Excel spreadsheets, right? Okay. That's how they were recording. Anyway, I'll move on from that. I was involved after the cholera epidemic in Zimbabwe in 2008. We did some work with Oxfam America. Same thing. We went to a rural district. I don't know if you can see this, but these are all little health outposts. There was no cell phone coverage. What we're doing is we're tracking new cases of diarrhea. So we had these guys, were great. We outfitted them with GPS units. GPS, right? Off they went. We teach this fairly quickly, people have been used before. And they were, locating essentially pieces that were popping up in a fairly short period of time. This actually helped Oxfam America find homes to go to deliver biosand filters so they can have clean water. Okay, let's talk about Haiti. Because I think Haiti is a great example where we talk about surveillance and what it does. At the time of the earthquake, the country of Haiti only followed 6 indicators in their health information system. My state in the US, we follow, I think, about 50 some odd indicators, right? Okay, what do you notice here? So very interesting. Hemorrhagic fever. Why do you think hemorrhagic fever leads? You guys can kind of know this too. You guys have a worse form of dengue, exactly, yeah, right? So same there, although you have type 2, but you guys have type 4. Kind of interesting, acute flaccid paralysis. Why do you think that's on the list? What is that? Flaccid paralysis. Any health providers here? No, there's a physical therapist in the crowd. I don't expect a physical therapist to know this one. Polio. So why is this on the list? Well, remember, every country in the world is part of eradicating polio, right? So that's going to be on everybody's list. Okay. Here's what happened after the earthquake. This expanded exponentially. Okay. Now, what do we see? Well, we see injury, of course, because there was an earthquake. Typhoid. Okay, interesting. Waterborne disease, right? Renal failure. Anybody know why? Earthquake? End of injury? Crush injury. Rhabdomyolysis, right? So people getting shut down with crush injury.